Greetings, one and all, to the most cursed, most cringiest corner of the internet. A YouTube channel content creator actively alienating everyone in both the analog and digital world. But welcome and good evening, wonderful dice of all alignments. I am Lunar D8. We're still in episode 3. In other words, there's no need for me to pay attention to your bullshit. Go ahead and show me how you can lock the door of your multicolored magic simply by waving your magic staff, just like those guys with their toad oil and all-purpose kitchen knives. Virgilia, let's reconstruct the crime scene. Search for a weakness. Were they all definitely dead? If one of them is just playing dead, this isn't a closed room at all. Nanjo confirmed that all of them were dead. However, due to the devil's proof, it is impossible to deny the possibility of a wrong diagnosis. In other words, that child cannot make the likelihood that Nanjo overlooked them being alive equal to 0. Here it is, that devil's proof. But there exists a sword that can carve that up. Oh, what's up with them? Looks like they're having a good time leaving me out of the discussion. I'm his opponent, am I not? Doesn't he have any time to spare for me? Fundamentally speaking, communication with one's opponent is not necessary to the act of competing in chess. Every time you've communicated with him outside of making your moves, you've used that opportunity to confuse him. Perhaps this is the result of him not wanting to be led astray. For some reason, I don't like it. You're challenging him to a chess match, are you not? That's true, but... Gah. Beatrice puffed out her cheeks as though to say, I don't know why, but I don't like it. Because the police have not yet arrived at the crime scene, the humans' side's ability to inspect the scene is limited. For a strict confirmation of death, I recommend that you have the child repeat in red. Okay, that's where I'll strike. I'll repeat it. Okay, that's where I'll strike. Repeat. The 6 victims are all dead. My lady, he has told you to repeat something in red, has he not? Hey, enough lazing around. Do you refuse to repeat it? This is where our battle starts. What? Ow, 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 ow. Sorry, that's fine, I'll answer. These 6 are all dead. Kenzo, Genji, Shannon, Kanon, Goda, and Kumasawa. Why are you so out of it? Okay, so I've already got 1 out of you. We'll start by denying that classic trick where the victims are playing dead. Cackle. I won't go easy on you anymore, come at me how you like. I'll slice them slantwise, one after another. Then repeat this. No one is hiding in any of the 6 rooms. Let's see you deny the existence of people we aren't aware of. I'll answer. There is no one hiding in the 6 rooms. Okay. Now I'm sure it's only the 6 of them in the can, and they aren't pretending to be dead. What will you do? What will you do? As if a human could manage anything by now. Obediently kneel to the fact that I can control locks at will with my wonderful magic, okay? Quit babbling. Repeat this too. The 6 deaths were instant deaths. Instant deaths? Oh, what do you mean by that? It means there is a possibility that the single victim on the verge of death managed to escape into the room, and after locking from the inside, created a closed room, they passed away. Humph. A classic closed room murder trick, one requiring the victim to receive a fatal wound and then die later. It is possible for a closed room to be constructed unexpectedly if the victim holes up inside the room to escape the murderer, and then dies after locking the door. In order to deny that possibility, you will need to proclaim that the 6 died instantly with the red truth. Cackle. Very well, I'll slay you with my red treasured sword. The 6 died instantly. By died instantly, I mean the targets instantly became incapable of action after being attacked. Well, it might still have taken them several seconds or minutes to die in the complete sense of the word, but regardless, it was completely impossible for them to take any actions of their own will. In that sense, I can confirm that they suffered instant deaths. Up until this point, I've been checking for classic tricks. Now's when our showdown over the closed room really starts, okay? If the culprit isn't on the inside, they're on the outside, so they somehow killed from outside the rooms. Cackle. Have you lost your mind? After all, closed room equals murder can possibly from the outside, right? That's why only a magical murder would be possible. No, that's wrong. The right approach is a murder really happened, it is in a closed room. No matter how much you try to trick me, this definitely isn't a closed room. It's a sham that only looks like one. However, Battler-sama, only the victims are inside the rooms, and no other people exists inside the rooms. And by Milady's closed room definition, remote murders from outside the room have been clearly denied, have they not? Wait, the definition of remote murders is pretty broad, right? It's not just about pulling a fishing line from outside the room and strangling the victim inside the room. For example, a trap would make for an excellent remote murder. A trap? Oh, and what might that be? Just as an example, let's say they were instructed to enter the rooms that somehow had picked out beforehand and locked the doors from the inside to create closed rooms themselves. A trap was set up in those rooms that they didn't know about, and that's what killed them. How's that? That doesn't contradict anything. There are no problems, and in fact, we don't have to prove that that's what happened. We just have to prove that that's a possible thing that could have happened. We're just trying to create reasonable doubt. It corresponds to the existing state. There are no problems on our side either. It does not conflict with my latest closed room definition. Ka. What's with that stupid reasoning? Nothing suspicious was found in any of the rooms, right? What form did that trap have? Where was it hidden and how did it operate? Explain that for all 6 of them in the parlor, the guest room, the waiting room, the VIP room, the boiler room, and the chapel. Well, you can't, can you? I refuse to counter that. There's no need for me to explain, and failing to do so doesn't damage my claim. What did you say? Beatrice, it's the devil's proof. The fact that he cannot explain the nature of the trap does not in itself deny the existence of such a trap. Well done. While overbearing, a wonderful move. This guy's getting completely used to this. Check. Due to the murder trap X that we couldn't find, it's possible to establish that the closed room murder. I'll kill that check with the red truth. The 6 were not killed by traps. And the definition of a trap? Oh, that's it. Something that activates when a victim triggers it on their own. Oh, and that's not all. It also includes things activated by remote control or by a timer, everything of that sort. Poo-coo-coo. So it refers to all arrangements that could carry out a murder without the direct participation of the one who planned it out. Perhaps we might sum it up that way. How's that? I've struck back. As if I'd let a human crush this closed room. You're looking pretty frantic to win, too. What? What do you mean? You're frantically fighting to make me accept your existence. Until now, I thought I was just being toyed around with by you one-sidedly, but that's not actually true. You're also frantically resisting my counters, fighting to show that you exist. Now, I finally really feel that it's true. This isn't torture inflicted on me, over whether I'll surrender or not. This is a fight between you and me on an even footing. Okay, now it's starting to get interesting, isn't it? All 6 died in closed rooms and no outsiders were inside. And there was no meddling from the outside and also no traps. Up until now, I'd probably start suspecting that this had to be the work of magic. And if you decided to show off some bizarre magic at this moment, I might even have surrendered. It's that favorite strategy of yours. You intercept all my moves, and in the moment I've exhausted all options and fall to my knees, when my heart's barriers are at their weakest, you show off some strange magic and take the game all at once. That short temper is something this child has always had, along with the bad habit of rushing things when victory is in sight. Poo-hoo-hoo. After all, my lady cannot stand putting off a match. Hey, shut up, shut up. It's Battler's turn, right? I finished off the trap piece you advanced. What should I repeat next? Show me what you've got. Right. Now that even traps have been defeated, this looks like a perfect closed room murder at a glance. And that's why I'll spin the chessboard round right now. Here it comes, that special technique of yours. How exactly are you going to spin what around? Try showing me. Yeah, I'll show you. I don't need to think of how 6 people could be killed inside closed rooms from the outside. Ah, it's useless, it's useless, useless, useless. That's right, the question isn't how you can kill from the outside the rooms. The point is how they died inside the rooms, making them closed rooms. That's it. This is the answer. If you assume that one of the 6 victims was the culprit, this closed room can be explained extremely easily. But what? Ridiculous. I believe I clearly said in red. The 6 of them were dead. Oh, there were 6 deaths. 5 were victims who got killed. But if you assume the other person committed suicide, you can destroy this closed room. Certainly. If the culprit locked themselves in the final closed room and threw away their own life, this closed room chain would be established. The suicide of the culprit. Normally it would be an unthinkable move, but the argument that the unthinkable cannot exist cannot be used, and he has no responsibility to demonstrate a motive. A truly powerful move which can only be used in chess match against a witch. Well, one cannot be certain that there was no motive. For example, it has been announced that Kenzo only had a short time left to live. Perhaps he did not regret losing his short remaining life and used his own death to send a message. It might be possible to attach such a motive. Milady, it is our turn. Indeed. To think you trample even the dignity of the dead to create a culprit. What a heartless, cold-blooded man. I mean, didn't we just learn that from you in the previous game with Cannon? I'll set up the dead as the culprit. This worse than inhuman move is one you used to attack Cannon-kun in the last game. Even though the games are different, I'm taking a shot back at you with this move, as a tribute to Cannon-kun for that time. Just now, I've freed Cannon-kun from his regrets. You have no responsibility to hold back here. You should try to confirm that suicide wasn't the cause of any of their deaths. I recommend that you have the child repeated in red. Right. But suicide's a naive word that won't corner her. Beato, this'll stop you. Repeat it. The 6 deaths were all homicides. That is painful. What's wrong? All 6 of them were killed, right? I'm just confirming the simple premise we've had from the very beginning, right? Can't you repeat it? Humph, I refuse to repeat it. There's no reason in particular. You realize that refusing to repeat this part is the same as resigning, right? Checkmate. One of the 6 was the culprit, and they planned to commit suicide after constructing the closed rooms. That's all. But wait. No, I'll say it. I'll use the red like you want. None of the 6 committed suicide. Problem. That's not what I asked. I asked you to confirm that all 6 were homicides, not that none of them were a suicide. It's like we're talking about desserts. I'm wanting you to confirm that they're all types of cake, and you're just saying none of them are chocolate. No. How's that? No, again, are you satisfied? No, because that's not what I asked. I didn't ask you to confirm that it wasn't that none of them committed suicide. I wanted you to confirm that they were all homicides. That's a different question. The fact that you're okay with saying this but not the other thing, that shows a problem. I've struck back. Tish, what the hell, so you can say it. But that's strange. Why are you so panicky? It's your imagination. This time even I'm feeling the pressure. That's another issue, is this. We're also, aside from the issue of the homicide and suicide thing, which is definitely a problem and it's its own separate problem, but this is its own separate problem in itself. We've been operating from the assumption that Beatrice knows 100% of the facts of what's going on. It could be that she herself doesn't actually know what's happening in some of the situations. That there could be situations with a closed room where something's happened and she tried to orchestrate certain things. But it could be that there's parts that she's not aware of. You know, basically, even though she's the one orchestrating shit, it's possible there's stuff additional going on that she's not aware of. That's right, I don't have any leeway. Pay it no mind. The line you asked the child to repeat has been altered. Do not be fooled. Cuckoo, it seems not to have worked, my lady. That's right. I don't know, I think it's called the Streisand effect as well. So where if you try too hard to distract from one thing, you just sort of highlight that issue. That's right. She didn't say the 6 deaths were all homicides. She changed that none of the 6 committed suicide, which means one of them wasn't killed by someone else and didn't commit suicide. Ah, I've got it. This is the truth. Culprit X, who was hiding among the 6, murdered the other 5 and then set up closed room. Oh, what if... Well, no, would that still technically count as a homicide? Like, what if the murderer got hurt by the others committing self-defense? Like, committing self-defense is a crime. But the main point is this. If you are a murderer killing a bunch of people and one of your victims hurts you bad enough that you yourself are going to die, even if you intended... Well, both situation A where you don't intend for them to hurt you, and situation B where you intend to get a fatal wound... I mean, that's technically not suicide, but it's also technically not homicide. At this point, we're just like arguing semantics. After that, they planned to escape or hide in that room by some method, and died by accident. However, they got in an accident. The culprit died from an accident that even they hadn't expected, setting up a closed room murder that even they hadn't desired. The other issue is this. Did they have an accident? Did they get wounded by the others in self-defense? Now it's over, Beatrice. Checkmate. Damn it. Did you think I'd be cornered by something like that? I'd never announce my resignation over something like that. I'll slice that foolish checkmate. I read Treasure Sword over and over again. None of the 6 died an accidental... Muga? One, what does Muga mean? What does that mean? I assume it's a surprise explanation and confusion, given the context and also the punctuation. That being said, did the butler save her? Like, she didn't realize what she was doing wrong. Because she went to say something that was in red, but... So we've at least gotten confirmation that if she herself tries to say something in red, but it's not true, it will refuse to be in red. Also, hopping onto Google real quick, going to translate that. Okay, we're going to switch from the word define to translate. Okay. Okay, it seems to think it's some language called Basque. And that would translate into the limit. But let's insist to the translation thing that it is Japanese. As soon as I find the word Japanese somewhere. I'm just gonna type the word Japan because there's so many fucking languages. Okay. Nope, it's not a thing that translates. Anyway, I'm just gonna go with my understanding what is by context. Oh, it's not a. I assumed he like I assumed he elbowed her in the ribs, and she was like startled and like, oh, what? I thought it was like a word, like her saying what? No, it's the sound of her being muffled. He like put one of his little, I don't know what to call those cloth things hanging out of his chest, but basically, or even just put his hand over her mouth. So he basically just like started muffling. That's the sound of her trying to say. That's the sound of her trying to talk, and he is like put his hand over her mouth, and he's just like smothering her mouth, saying, "Nope, you've said enough." My apologies. We request some time to strategize. Please allow us a brief postponement of this matter. It is a fair request. Perhaps you should accept it. Also, this makes me think, since Renove probably was the one who set this up, I think Beatrice honestly believed that none of the six died an accidental death. But she's wrong. So she said a thing in red, which she believed was going to be in red, but the whole sentence was coming out in white, and he's like, oh shit, this is overplaying our hand. At which point he covered her mouth and immediately stopped her from saying anything more. And he was like, hey, yeah, you're mistaken about that. The thing that you're saying that you think is true, you're wrong about. So it's not necessarily like... So when it comes right down to this, she can't say anything in red that isn't implicitly true. But she can think something is true and try to say it in red. And at which point it will refuse. I don't want to update Windows. But it would just... So, she'll think... Apparently, she didn't notice it wasn't coming in red either. But... Main thing is this. She doesn't know what's the truth in that situation. She believes what she was saying was going to be the truth. But... she's wrong. And Renova's like, yeah, you probably should have paid attention to what was happening. It's a fair request. Perhaps you should accept it. Sure, take a break. I've been given those a lot lately. Now it's your turn to take one. Thank you very much. Come, milady, this way. And let us quietly count 100 inside our heads. Oh, so I thought he like took his hand off her mouth and she just sort of like maturely understood the situation and went along with it. No, he's just been holding his... I mean, can a witch suffocate? I mean, technically he's covering her face. I mean, he's probably not covering her nose. And I mean, she's got magic, so I mean, she could probably, breathe via magic, right? That's why she's turning purple. Renove quickly covered Beato's mouth with his hand, as she grew thoroughly panicked and agitated, suspending the game. He pulled Beato away, supposedly to hold a strategy conference. Damn.